In the last budget, the finance minister announced an increase in the outlay for the PLI, the production linked incentive scheme for solar manufacture, from the previous 4,500 crores to 24,000 crores, a whopping increase of 19,000 crores. Now, this move has been hailed by and large by the industry as a good one because, the thinking is that it will engender or spawn a solar manufacturing ecosystem in the country. Now, in this video, we will examine whether it will really be so. Not. Of course, the move is very well intentioned. After all, India has made a commitment in the global fora, particularly in COP26, that by 2030, the country would have 500 gigawatts of renewable energy capacity, most of which will be only solar because there is not much you can do in wind and other areas are still emerging, so it will be mostly solar. So the thinking was that when we're going to have such a large rollout of solar energy capacity in the country, why do we have to import all the key equipment such as cells and modules? So cells are made into modules from abroad, and particularly from China. Why can't we have them manufactured on our own soil? Of course, it's logical. The rationale is well established. But the question is, will these incentives and the other kinds of support that the government is planning to give any company which wants to manufacture solar equipment in India, will these really help? This is what we want to examine in this video, and we will veer around to the conclusion that probably not so. Now, why do I say that? China has a very, very large solar manufacturing capacity. When I say solar manufacturing capacity, I mean the capacity, the factories to manufacture, starting from silicon to polysilicon or monosilicon, as the case may be, to ingots and wafers, and then to cells and modules, all the way up the value chain, starting from silicon right up to modules. China has already established a very large capacity. It is estimated to be something like 280 gigawatts of capacity the country has. So it has a very long head start over India. So India is only about starting now. The capacity that India has is, negligible. Now, with this large capacity already established, and we know the Chinese really know proper costing system, they can sell anything at any price. They have the muscle to clobber down the prices to any levels. If they want to make Indian manufacture uncompetitive, they have the muscle to do that, they have wherewithal to do that. Until a couple of years ago, the Chinese modules were selling at 18 cents a watt peak. It is a funny story about how solar module prices have declined over years. About 10 years back, solar module used to be selling at $1.20 a watt peak. From then, as China increased its manufacturing capacity and as the world increased its solar energy capacity, the prices kept consistently dropping down. And then, when it was about 18 cents, people used to say that it would further come down to about 12 cents a watt peak. Now, since then, in the last couple of years, because of the pandemic and the related attendant problems of supply chain disruptions and other problems like the glass prices going up and so on, the Chinese module prices have gone up from 18 cents to about 30 cents, 32 cents now. But then most people believe, and I certainly do too, that this is temporary. Over a period of time, maybe in a few years, the Chinese module prices will come back to about 18 cents or even lesser. At least that is a fair assumption to have at this point in time. So you have to take 18 cents as the benchmark price for all your analysis. Now, if you have 18 cents of Chinese module coming into India, by the way, the government India has done another thing. It is also bringing in protection in the form of customs duty, basic customs duty of 40% for modules and 25% for cells, which will kick in from April 1 this year. So there is this support, this tariff wall on the one side, and the financial incentive under PLI scheme on the other. So when a Chinese made module comes in, it will probably sell about, if you calculate the customs duty, probably sell about 25 cents or so. And then an Indian manufacturer will get about an incentive of about 3.65 cents under this PLI scheme. Of course, it is graded. It depends upon the level of value addition, and it also depends upon the efficiency of the modules. So it's a very complex calculation, but you can take that about the incentive that a solar manufacturer will get will be about 3.5, 3.6 cents a watt peak. Now, with all these, if you do the calculation, even a back of the envelope calculation, you will see that Indian manufacturer will have to compete against a price of about 28 cents. That is, if he sells below 28 cents, he won't be competitive. The point is, it is very difficult for Indians to be selling at this price. Not because they're not good. It's not that they do not know how to do things. But as we all know, the Indian cost structure is different. You have to factor in the various inputs of costs. Land is one, and more importantly, the finance cost is another, the power costs another. If you take into account all these things, it's very difficult to see Indian manufacturers being able to compete about, bring down the price to about 28, 30 cents. And even if they do, it's only with the help of incentives. Without incentive, if you take away the incentives, it is extremely difficult to see Indian manufacturers, that is not Indian owned manufacturer, any company who sets up manufacturing plants in India, it can be owned by anybody. Very difficult to see them compete against the Chinese, these prices, especially when the Chinese prices go back to 18 cents. At least you cannot bet on it. Now, the point here is that the government is spending something like 24,000 crores on something whose outcomes are uncertain. That is, the 24,000 crores will be spent even if you assume that the Indian industry will be able to manufacture and sell and compete against the Chinese. It can at best be only as long as the incentives are there. Once the incentives, by the way, are available for a period of 5 years under the PLI scheme for any product. Now, the question is what happens after these 5 years? And you cannot also have these customs duties keeping it up indefinitely for many, many years. So once these supports are taken off, it's extremely difficult to bet on Indian manufacturers being able to compete against Chinese. And think of the scenario of a large solar manufacturing ecosystem being created in India. It's not something that you can bet on. The outcomes are very uncertain, and it looks like a gamble with odds stacked up against you. Now look at the other thing that it's going to do. When you, instead of buying cheap Chinese solar modules, if you have Chinese modules coming in with a customs duty built in, or if you buy locally manufactured modules, the prices of modules for a solar developer, that is solar energy company, prices of modules are going to go up. That will have its impact on solar tariff. Now that will in turn impact on the rollout of solar energy in the country. Today, climate action is a global imperative, and we have made bombastic commitments in the global fora that will build such a large capacity of renewable energy capacity in India, and the world is watching us. And now, on the one hand, we have such a commitment to the world, and on the other hand, we do something that's going to go against that commitment, not consistent with that commitment. There is something not fundamentally right here. So my view, and I have had conversations with people in the industry, and this is also a kind of consensus that emerges. This is the view that I get from the industry, that solar manufacturing is a bus that India has missed. And it looks like we are running after that missed bus, that too with crutches. Instead, it would be worthwhile, after all, no country has to do everything. Instead, it would be worthwhile if we try to take the bus that is still coming to the bus stop, which are things like electrolyzers for hydrogen, or non-lithium based batteries like sodium ion batteries or aluminum air, metal air batteries. There are so many things that are still happening where India is not behind anyone else in the race. No other country has a big head start over India in certain areas of technology related to clean tech. So, for example, hydrogen electrolyzers. There are about 5-6 companies in the world at best. Now, if you give PLI to those companies for a manufacturer of electrolyzers in the country, they will come and set up shop here, because after all, India has a big, huge plans for hydrogen. And Indian companies will also be enthused to set up electrolyzer manufacturing capacity here. And we won't be up against somebody like the Chinese. Of course, I do know that the government is thinking indeed on the lines of giving a PLI to electrolyzers, but we are running out of time. We have to do it very urgently. The sequencing is probably not correct. You first give it to solar manufacturers and then to electrolyzers. Maybe this is the time we should have given some kind of incentives to electrolyzer manufacturer or other technology, like I said, metal air batteries or air batteries, non-lithium batteries. But lithium, again, China has a big head start. China is way ahead of others. It has capacities. It has access to raw materials, which we don't. So no point in trying to compete against the Chinese in lithium-ion battery, lithium-based battery technologies, like battery chemistries. There are so many other battery chemistries that India can still try to do that and beat the Chinese in this game, and others in this game can become world. And particularly in hydrogen, we can become world leaders. We can become suppliers of hydrogen, global suppliers of hydrogen, if we have a large electrolyzer manufacturing capacity in this country. So if you look at all these things, it does appear that the government has unwittingly given in to the lobby of the solar manufacturing companies. There are about a handful of them. Unfortunately, they have been able to convince the government that they need this incentive, and once they are given this incentive, there will a long enduring capacity, solar manufacturing capacity in the country. At this moment, it does look like it is very unlikely. One hopes that this stand is proven wrong, and India can indeed see large solar manufacturing ecosystem.